My name is Chris Hooper. I'm one of the assistant principals at Westmount on this campus I'm in the middle of. And maybe first thing we'll do is the program structure will be pretty straightforward. And then the third is I'm just going to do this, a rationale based upon our experience and some of the research we did with this program over the years. And the fourth thing is talking a little bit about resiliency and why we specifically for this age group. The last would be the main purpose of the program, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how parents can we can unite as a group and help prepare our grade 6s to come in. I mean the key word. So the one guy that's not available here, because he had some family commitments, we decided to put him in lights and in his tights, and that's Mr. Knoll, and he doesn't know we have an ex-national team speed skater, and I don't think he ever wore a pair of tights after his tenure on the national team. He comes here every day dressed up in a suit and tie, pretty much. I think he got a little fatigued from years. And of course, Mr. Byron, she is always assigned to him in meetings where she sits beside him and ensures he behaves. And Ms. Voth is right across from Mr. Byron. And of course, our student services representative, my counterpart, we work quite closely together, Murphy. So the format for next year, to get right down to the nitty-gritty, is it's going to be a quarter system format. So it'll be about a 9-week cycle to 10-week cycle where students are with a certain teacher, to be really specific. And the reporting periods will look a little bit different than they do for the entire school, just because we have this set up. The front office doesn't like us for it, but it worked out pretty well this year. The grades are not cumulative. This is that we noticed integrated programs, for some reason, work really well here at this age group. The next thing is that we've done some trials in Byron. Another one was Footprints, invented by Mr. Robinson. And Innovations was a collective effort by Ms. Sullivan in looking at specific areas and integrating subject matter. An interesting feedback system that is unique to our school. Greg Woolley, who was our communications officer, I'm sure you guys have got notes from Mr. Woolley, did something ingenious a number of years ago where he had our grade 12, our first graduates, still fill out the survey on an annual basis. We know about their healthy eating status, which isn't very good, 3 years out of Westmount. We know about their status in terms of their critical thinking, them well. So this has given us a little bit of an insight on, okay, what things are we doing well, and what kind of graduates are we producing? And is there anything we need to change, and what do we need to keep? And integrated programs has been one of those things at the mid-school level that, explain a little bit of that in the next few slides on what we looked at from our current grade 7 parents and our current grade 7s and how their year went. And that all influenced in how we designed next year's grade 7 program. Really started out with Mr. Byron and his Project Earth group, and again that was integrated, meaning that a lot of subject matters were blended together to make the outcomes come alive, and themes looked at in order to introduce those. Then what we realized is every program was hitting on that integrated piece, and it became apparent that we wanted to give all of our grade 7s that opportunity to experience different teachers collectively together. That's what collective means, and this thing I think is just batteries died. As we developed dandelions and roots, and both programs are really students' two forces combined. We know with the Dandelions program, it's science-focused. They focus on science and outdoor ed, physical education solely, and as well as sort of an academic focus too, and the kids get to experience all of it. So that was a big plus, looking at the 9-week cycle. So, what are we for in pedagogy? I'm just going to take a little sidetrack. I never do that. So the term dandelions came from and they were brain researchers. And so what they found out, and they made the analogy to dandelions, to much of our chagrin, if you guys are property owners and have your lawns, dandelions can survive under any condition. We want to help place our children in some sort of system where they can survive no matter what. We don't have to worry about them. They're able to handle any conditions thrown at them. Conversely, we have conditions to grow in, or else they don't do well. So we know from our school, gifted education, gifted kids, heightened sensitivities, some of the issues that they may morph them into more of a dandelion-like kid, if that makes sense. So now, nowadays, actually, there's a research institute on dandelions. In fact, that term is caught wildfire. Now there's a group called the Dandelions. I Googled them just now just to see what I'd get, and it's amazing. But actually, it comes from that research. Now, to talk a little bit about our evaluation tool that we looked at with our current what things didn't go well, was this tool we used. And we found this tool from Dalhousie University. And there's this researcher named Dr. Michael Unger. He actually has the National Center for Resiliency Research at his conference. We've actually seen him present in Calgary. Very interesting man. I'll show you kind of what he's produced. But anyway, one of the things that he looks at specifically is the resiliency research, which is pretty young. It's only about 30 years old. And he designed a research tool that we modified to fit our pillars, as well as some academic rigor that we're thinking, okay, it was important in terms of the 21st century learner, in terms of how they critically our pillars of the school. We're very interested in, so we looked at some of his questions and fit them into our categories that would speak to us, as well as some open comments. And so he did support all of our academic pillars quite well. And there was a natural link with resiliency. And so that's a picture of Dr. Michael Unger. In fact, if you go to he has a website too. If you go michaelunger, I think .org or .com. But anyway, if you Google it, you'll get him, how it shapes them. How a little fall off the bike on the curve is very, very important in terms of how that child analyzes that risk to later in life. He's interesting because you've all heard the terms. I'm sure your parents said to kids nowadays. But Mike Unger says, no, that's not such a thing. All kids are the same. They've always been the same. Kids actually, so they're ready, willing, and able for someone to show them the way. They just need someone to show them the way. Unfortunately, pop culture veers them away. So that's how we have to kind of rope them back in. However, he's very street kids involved in gangs and drugs, and he's found some his research had some very positive results, suggesting kids are the same everywhere. So his books are pretty interesting, and his resilience is a decent strategy to reach these kids. So I know this is a busy slide, and the first rule of doing presentations is not to have a busy slide. However, every word there is worth reading. And so it's very simple. You'll navigate the resources. They need to overcome challenges and their capacity to negotiate. Them themselves negotiate. Not us as teachers or us as parents to negotiate. Them themselves to negotiate, so that they're provided for ways. That's favorite definition of gifted. Okay? Sorry, can you see? Okay. Giftedness is asynchronous development, okay, which is a challenge, okay? The color-coded words do need kids that need something that's meaningful. Can't be this, it needs something special. That's why this whole school exists. And they are vulnerable, that's a challenge, and of course they require modifications, and the kids need to be It will not work. And that's what the grade 7 program, in a sense, does, because they're coming from a place of elementary school, and grade 6 is still elementary, even though we consider it mid-school here. Some of you have been in here where just behind you is our grade 5 and 6 wing, and the kids are pretty much in that area of the school. The teachers pretty much have a good idea what they're doing all the time. And, to use a maybe not great word, in grade 7 and 8, that's where the mid-school years come in full force. And as a parent, if you're ready or not, here you go. You know, and it can be amazing and really not just. I think I just scared a lot of people. But figuring out what tools they have, what new tools to learn to navigate their way through. And that's what the program is designed to do. Therefore, our purpose in this grade 7 year, using our 4 pillars, which are great set of guides. One of the things that we find helpful, reflecting on what parents can do, and what we at one point we want to get to facilitating the learning, not directing it. You know, is be involved in field trips and classroom events, and parent involvement is really important. It's been a flagship of our grade 7 program. Again, talking about Michael Unger's research. He actually has some really interesting research. It's underway right now. It's not finished, but it started looking at a bunch of kids over a 10-year span upon graduating from high school to see where they end up, and what key and key turning points that have influenced them for the better or for the worse. So pretty neat. He has a little summary of that on his webpage too. Whether your child's in a sport or some activity or social, it's important to start talking about how they handle it. What would they do differently? You know, what do they think about it? How do they initially respond? How do they respond now? And this new neighborhood, as much as possible, with having the classroom come alive outside of these walls. And another thing is posing open-ended questions to help coach with challenges. So now we have to think about coaching, and it's same parenting and teaching is the same thing. Okay, how do we start rephrasing questions and placing them in positions of power so they have decisions, they're bought in on I guess the course of it. A lot of our high school teachers use this website, and I've got it actually from Seamus Doyle and Tom Musk, who did a lot of critical thinking evaluation at the high school level. And in fact, that's one of the tools that we use for intake. The group is looking at critical thinking in 6 stages. So for grade 7, we would like at the end to be in stage 3, where they're beginning to make the intellectual commitment, because often, and as parents, your child could speak to you as if they're 25 years old, well-versed, and they're counseling you, and the next minute it might be a little bit different. You know? And so if we can get that consistency in their thinking process and how they evaluate any situation, it gives a lot of examples on strategies to use, as well as what it looks like, what changing in thinking looks like. Because it's a hard thing to be. Strategies to use, as well as what it looks like, what changing in thinking looks like. Because it's a hard thing to pin as tangible. Basically, what's in red here says the principal challenge of stage 3, the beginning thinker, is to begin to see the importance of developing as a thinker in all aspects, to begin to seek ways to develop as a thinker and make an intellectual commitment, because that's a lot of effort. Because they're still kids. They get tired at the end of the day. I think we're tired sometimes, and it's hard for us to always be on our A game, where sometimes if something's bothering us in the back of they get tired at the end of the day. I think we're tired sometimes, and it's hard for us to always be on our A game, where sometimes if something's bothering us in the back of our head and you have some emotional noise back there, it's hard to make a logical decision. elicited through the stress response interferes with cognition, interferes with memory. It's not healthy to have. So for kids that aren't quite neurologically developed, this is a bit of a challenge, and it requires a commitment. And that's probably the biggest thing that as parents through the process, and using that same model time again, same strategy. So at this point in time, it's a quick presentation, but we also want to, I guess, our quarter system model, what kind of activities to prepare for. If you have any other questions that we didn't answer, we got our 3/4 of our faculty here, and Mr. Mike, you can come up here, or if you can shout, like Cheryl might, shoot. Last year, based upon math ability, we did some pre-testing and we put them in homogeneous groups, and that helped us with the acceleration piece. So we had some grade 7s doing an enriched program of grade 7s, some doing a grade 8. Every year it's a bit of a unknown process, because we have to assess them first, the students, and then they typically don't fall into nice 4 even classes, and so you have some hybrid classes, but that's how we initially 7-1 starts here, 7-2 starts here, 7-3 starts here, 7-4 starts here, and then we cycled them through. Yeah. No, in gifted ed, acceleration is an important piece. However, we found the social-emotional and integration piece important. Is a bit of a mess how we try and figure out how do those two unite. And so that's been the challenge of this program. How do we keep that acceleration piece and do simultaneously?